That was weird. That was weird. That was weird. Huh. I don't know if my internet's working or not, to be honest with you. Huh. All right. Well, the intro fucked up, regardless. So, little unusual stream tonight. Um, a few news, noteworthy type of stuff that's going on. John Thune has decided to put the Vote of America First Act on the floor to vote to put the Democrats on the floor to state their opinions. Which pretty much means that it's not going to pass, it's going to fail, and, John Thune is going to show himself as the loser that he is. And the reason why I'm saying that is because he's trying to play an old trick that does not work. He is trying to say, I'm going to put the vote on the floor and put the other side to task, and they can vote against it when 83% of the U.S. citizens approve of this, and they're going to have to say no. The problem is the Democrats are going to be like, yeah, well, we don't like this part, and because this part's in there, we're not going to vote for it. Now, if you take this other part out, we'll consider it, but since you put it out here like this, we're going to vote. And we're going to vote no because of this specific line right here. And that's what they do. Both Democrats and Republicans, they do it every time. So it doesn't really matter. It really freaking doesn't matter. This bill is not going to pass. Now, Trump again has signaled and has said repeatedly over the last 2 days that if they don't pass it, guess what? I ain't signing shit until it passes. We'll see. We'll see, but, politics is bullshit. Most of the people in the Congress and the Senate are corrupt, and there's a handful, and when I mean a handful, I mean I can actually count 5 that I would actually be like, I might disagree with you, but I believe you. And there's only 5 of them in there that I would actually do that. Other than that, the rest of them are fucking liars. They're fucking liars. But this isn't what tonight's for. I'm not going to rehash that because I rehashed that last night. So today, there are quite a few people that when I say quite a few, I mean, a couple handful of people that I actually follow on YouTube and follow on, what's actually going on in the world as far as media and the talking heads and stuff like that go. I mean, you got the Daily Wire, you've got, Turning Point, you've got, people like that, right? Dan Bongino, you've got, Tim Pool, you got all those talking heads who are going to give you opinions. And then you got people who are, they're in the weeds. They are the people who are fighting the fight, regardless of your size, and regardless of the side that you're on, they're fighting that fight in the weeds. You got your big wigs, and you got the people who are down there in deep and who are actually, converging on the ideas and the thoughts and stuff like that. One of those guys is a talk show radio host out of Las Vegas named Brian Shapiro. Now, Brian Shapiro has been being popped up. He's been on Piers Morgan. He's been on stuff, different other shows. He's been popping up a lot lately. He's becoming a big voice in the political left. Even though he claims he's independent, even though he claims he's not a leftist, even though he holds leftist views, he's becoming a prominent vocal voice on that side. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have a following. He's got a pretty decent following. He's got a pretty decent, radio show in Vegas. Because of the area that he's in, he gets political figures on his radio show to, interview and to talk and stuff like that. So, he does. Today, and he's been debating a lot of the right-wing debate bros, if you want to call them that. I would call them trench fighters, just because they are engaging in this stuff on a regular basis. He's been, debating, Andrew Wilson. He was, what's his name? God, I can't think of his name. He's been showing up on a lot of, debate panels and a lot of debate shows and stuff like that. One thing that he is good for is rhetoric. He is a great mouthpiece for and again, he claims he's independent, but he holds a lot of left-leaning opinions. A lot. And when he went up against Andrew Wilson, one of his tactics was, because Andrew goes straight down into philosophy and straight down into the core of things. And, it was one of those debates. Excuse me. It really didn't show his faults, but it highlighted a lot of things. But today, I think he met his match. And the reason why I say I think he met his match is because there's another debater and philosophical, educated person out there. His name is Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer has been on the scene as far as philosophical debates for going on 25 years. If you haven't followed him, I suggest you do, if you like philosophical and debates. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because this debate actually points to the difference between somebody who understands the level of education that it takes and the understanding of philosophy and debates and breaking ideas and thoughts down to liberal think, to it's my point of view, and my worldview is better than yours. And then when you break it all down, they have no argument. And what's funny is, like I said, I've watched several of these debates, and this is the first time that I can say where this guy actually met a match that he really couldn't contend, and he tried. This dude tried so freaking hard. And tonight, when I was, done with dinner and stuff like that, and I was listening to got done listening to the debate, and I was telling my wife, I was like, wow, that's the difference. This is the difference between the right and the left. And when I say the right and the left, I'm not saying conservative, MAGA, Republican. I'm saying you can tell the difference between when somebody understands what knowledge and logic means and what this is what I feel. This is how I feel, and you should comport to how I feel. It was freaking unbelievable. I mean, I've seen both of these guys debate several times, but tonight was that night where I, at least, actually saw the difference. And what's funny is I'm actually going to start this at the end of the debate, and then we're going to rewind and we're actually going to listen to a little bit more. But this is the end of the debate. This is the guy on the screen is Jay Dyer.
I made a statement as what you would say.
Let's listen to this.
How do you know that nobody knows that God exists? How do you know that?
We don't know for sure. Nobody knows.
Now it's a universal claim. How do you know that no one knows?
Where's your evidence that God exists?
How do you know that I didn't make a universal claim. You did. How do you know that no one knows?
There is no direct evidence that there is a God.
But how do you know that no one knows?
Because no one's presented it.
So do you know what a universal claim is?
Yes, nobody's presented it.
What's a universal claim?
Universal claim is what I just said.
Which is what?
Nobody has direct evidence that God exists.
And it's what? About all states and all people at all times.
Yeah.
It's a universal claim.
Sure.
See, that's the point right there. The guy will not engage. Oh, yeah, sure. I know. Sure, I know. Jay is pressing him. This is the last part of the debate. This isn't the beginning. This is the last part of the debate. We'll get to the beginning here in a minute.
Do you have access to universal states of affairs?
If you disagree with me, then tell me your evidence that
God
exists.
Do you have access to universal states of affairs?
Give me your evidence that God exists.
Do you?
You could make.
So
you could play word games with me.
So all philosophical questions are word games, even though you admitted that the law of non-contradiction
does God exist,
is not
Jay?
a word game.
Your Christianity does God exists, right?
Of course.
Where's your evidence that God exists?
The transcendental argument.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's direct evidence.
Yeah, it's a logical argument. Sure.
And hell and heaven exist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Where's your evidence of that?
Because it's part of the worldview.
Gotcha. So your worldview, you know for sure. And if I
have
say,
the highest degree of certitude that one could have.
Okay, you can have the highest degree. It doesn't make it true. But
I didn't say it did.
Now, this is the thing that's funny is it's the arguments being made is it's always about me, right? So we're actually going to watch this because it's funny at the beginning. We're going to skip through a lot of parts because a lot of parts they actually do agree on a lot of things. But there are some things where this guy just goes stupid. And Jay's just like, what the hell are you talking about? All right. We're going to listen to the intro and then we're going to deep dive into some of the good stuff. Okay.
On the air with this huge platform and said that they were actors. You know what he said. And he only did that for clicks and money. The first part is when let me see if there's actually a transcript. I don't think there is right now because I paused it earlier. Let me see if I can find it. They talked about oh shit. And you're making the pain of parents, like I said, some of who I had to talk to and interview, and my heart goes out to them, and I'm sure yours does as well. And he called them actors, and he made their pain worse. And I find only a reprehensible, despicable human being would do what Alex Jones does. Now, he is
Alex Jones. The first 30 minutes is about Alex Jones. And
these right-wingers don't apologize, usually. I'm glad that Alex Jones has done that.
Yeah, they're talking about Alex
I don't feel like
Jones
cooking today,
like
so I'm trying 2 meals from Cook Unity to see if they're actually worth the hype. And first up, we're starting with this mission style.
What I'm saying is that since 2007, I was really disaffected with mainline party politics.
What about rolling out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Alaska?
This is
what about no
about
concessions?
Trump.
What about the fact that Russia is giving intel to Iran right now, and Trump, they just don't seem to want to talk about that. They've had pleasant conversations in the last week.
Yeah.
Rolling out the red carpet, he blamed Vladimir Zelensky, called him a dictator, and he blamed Ukraine for the war. Let me tell you something. If Iran had invaded Israel, I might feel a little differently about this war.
Well, here's where we disagree, right? No, I would be anti-Ukraine for sure.
Who started the war in Ukraine?
NATO.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
Vladimir, who invaded?
All the way back to
Ukraine?
2012, NATO.
Now this is one of the points where they're talking about the Ukraine war and Trump and Russia and stuff like that, and this is where you start to understand that this guy doesn't give a Brian doesn't give a crap about what Jay says. He really doesn't. He's it's not true. Oh, it's not true. He doesn't know because here in a few minutes, he actually admits he doesn't know. But at the beginning, his first initial response is, I don't know. I don't know.
NATO was provoking Russia, and they did not keep to the agreements during the Cold War about not expanding. NATO
Jay, who
expanded.
invaded Ukraine?
Yeah, and this is where he presses. He presses. Who invaded Ukraine? Who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? And Jay constantly tries to tell him his point of view. He ignores it. He refuses to engage in what Jay is thinking. Instead, he's like, no, I'm right. Typical fucking left.
Again,
Who started the
NATO
violence first?
provoked Russia to invade.
Okay, I didn't ask you who provoked. Who
Well,
invaded?
it matters.
Who provoked? Doesn't matter. Now, you can believe this left or right. I don't care. But at the same time, it's not what's being said. It's how it's being delivered. Jay is saying, this is what happened. This is my opinion. Okay?
Who invaded?
And Brian just fucking, ignores it completely and tries to push his narrative over and over again. Watch.
Ukraine.
Russia
Thank you.
was
Who
provoked.
started the
by
violence?
Ukraine. Who put the
I could
who
provoke-
put the biolabs
I could
all around Russia?
I could provoke somebody
Who
to
put
murder.
the biolabs
Okay,
all
but hold
around
on. I
Russia?
could provoke somebody
This
to
is
murder.
geopolitics. It's false analogy.
Okay, I can provoke somebody to murder somebody, but I'm not asking you who provoked. I'm asking you who committed the
Who
crime.
put the biolabs all around Russia as a
No, I disagree. No, you can see it in his face. He doesn't give a shit about what Jay's saying. You're not engaging with what I'm saying. And Jay's like, no, this is the way it is. This is what I'm thinking. And Brian's like,
offensive provocation?
Nobody forced Vladimir Putin
It is
to
forced.
invade Ukraine.
It is a forcing.
I
if-
disagree with you.
Well, again, that Ukraine is actually historically Russia anyway, and it was only Ukraine after Lenin and
This right here. Now look, this right here, he realizes right now that his line of attack is not being effective because Jay is being steady. He is not wavering because he's not playing into that game. And you can see it in his face. He is trying, and this is where I realize this guy really, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit what Jay is saying. He's not taking it in. He's trying to make his points. He's trying to make his political points and what's funny is later on, he actually tries to say that he's not trying to convince anybody. You'll see that later. But you just continue to watch him. All he's wanting to do is try to make his points.
after World War I.
Watch him.
Okay, so Jay,
So it's not even a real country. It's a country
Ukraine
created-
Didn't
didn't
even
start
listen.
this war.
It's a country that was created by the West and by communists to sever that center of power
I
from
understand.
Russia.
I
So
understand what
that's
you're.
the history.
I understand, but Ukraine did not start
I understand. Oh, wait a minute. I'm ignoring the history, but
the war. They did not
I
start the war.
disagree.
Okay, well,
I think that NATO and the West provoked the war so that then they could
so
say
you think
that,
Zelensky is a dictator?
and then he switches it. So Zelensky's a dictator? That had nothing to do with who started the war, so he pivots.
in many ways he acts like a dictator with persecuting
So
Orthodox. He
Zelensky's-
persecutes Orthodox Church and shuts it down. So, yeah.
So Zelensky started the war and he's a dictator. You agree
Never once said that.
with Donald
he
Trump?
didn't start the war.
Well, Donald
he
Trump
was-
said that. Was he lying?
He may be speaking about for political reasons. He didn't start the war. I think NATO started the war again.
Don't you think?
Boom. Regardless of whether you agree, regardless of whether you actually agree with what Jay is saying, listen to how Brian actually approaches this.
I think it's kind of important if you're the president of the United States to not
I
lie
don't have a
about.
problem criticizing Trump, but
Yeah,
I will defend the fact that I don't think
Right.
that Russia started the war.
Okay, well-
NATO provoked the war.
I can tell you this
Has
war.
NATO expanded since the Cold War?
Well, no.
Boom. Ignored it. ignored it completely, and still pushes his point.
Oh, but I
Have
can
they?
tell you
Yes, they have.
that, well, hold on a second. Let me just go back
They've
to
been
what-
putting bases and biolabs. That came out.
Okay.
The Pentagon admitted yesterday was
Right.
biolab.
Okay. Listen to me. Listen to me. Okay. All right. We're going to bring this down to real life, okay? How many times have you been in an argument with your wife? How many times have you been in an argument with your girlfriend or significant other, whatever, okay? And you're trying to prove a point and you're not listening to what they're saying, you know you're right. You don't give a shit what they're saying. You don't care what type of point they're making because you're right. And all you're ready to do is come back. Come back with what you want them to hear. Now, while that brings us down to the reality, in this situation right here, which is supposed to be a quote-unquote debate/discussion, here's the problem that you find, okay? You find one person on this side who is not actually listening to the other side. And you find the other side who is actually listening to the other side and poking holes. This is why I said, number one, if you are actually learned in philosophy, you will destroy anybody. Because 9 times out of 10, people who are not educated in philosophy, who is educated in other things, you're going to get destroyed. But let's watch this because it's fun. It's fun when he gets destroyed.
Labs in Ukraine.
But that still doesn't defend, it's not a defense for Vladimir
It's a
Putin invading
provocation.
Ukraine.
It's a provocation.
Okay, so do you
If
think we
people,
should,
if let's say people, if they started coming into your property and they were saying, "Oh, well, you don't have a right to, react because we're not actually causing you to react. We're just coming on your property."
so do
then
you
you
think
would
it's
react.
appropriate for an
Totally ignored the question.
evil, murderous dictator, which is who Vladimir Putin is? I would hope that we could at least, even though we disagree on this,
Totally ignored the question.
you would agree with me that Vladimir Putin doesn't have a regard for human life. He kills journalists in his own country that disagree with him. If you talk about Vladimir Putin on the phone, there have been instances where you're massacred. He's an evil dictator. Can we
Yeah, can you agree with me? Can you agree with my point? Because I'm trying to tell you that this is bad, and I want you to agree with me.
at least agree on that?
I mean, all heads of state operate in a similar way.
Now, this is the problem with Jay, okay? And the reason why I love Jay, but this is the problem is he will break it down into the smallest pieces and be like, where Brian is like, okay, everybody thinks this, and that's a fallacious argument, okay? But at the same time, it's one of those things where a majority of people do. A majority of people in the U.S. think that Putin is a dictator, okay? He is a brutal dictator. Now, does that mean that, a majority of Russians think that? No. And this is his point.
The U.S. assassinates people all the time. So
Can you tell me
probably-
where the U.S.
Let me finish
assassinated
my-
a
so a
journalist?
lot. Oh yeah, all the time. Udo
Obama.
Ulfkotte is
Okay,
a
I'm
famous,
unfamiliar with
famous
that.
journalist who was assassinated
Okay.
in Germany for
Which-
talking about the CIA infiltrating and using German media for Western purposes.
Okay.
And so, whether or not Putin himself had the journalist assassinated, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of journalists are actually also undercover as spies.
If
So-
anybody listened to my show for 30 seconds, if I was talking
Okay, this is when he brings up his brag. And, if anybody listens to my show for 30 seconds.
about Vladimir Putin that way in Russia, I would be murdered. In the United States of America, even though Donald Trump is trying to take away our First Amendment rights to criticize him, he does it all the time. He calls people like me vermin and the enemy within. We still have the right in this country to our First Amendment to criticize politicians and the president. In Russia, You
No,
will
that's
be
true.
murdered if you do that. That's what makes
No.
him a dictator. That's part of what makes him a dictator. And the point I was trying to make was that Donald Trump has, and I'm not saying you're a Trump apologist, but Donald Trump has rolled out the red carpet for an evil.
Okay. Listen to this. I'm not saying you're a Trump apologist. Okay? And Trump and Jay really said, I'm not a politician. I'm not into politics. But I don't think that you're a Trump apologist. But, and if you've ever known me say this, if anybody says X but Y, what they're saying is ignore what I said before but and listen to what I'm saying now. Because what I said before but doesn't matter.
Dictator on American soil.
Mhm.
To this day, no Russian sanctions. In fact, they've blamed Ukraine. Now, I know I guess we disagree on what's going on in Ukraine, but Donald Trump's foreign policy is a joke. The world is laughing at us right now when it comes to tariffs, the $175 billion that he stole from the American people. And now we were told we were going to get tariff checks. And now it's turned into, well, you can sue us if you'd like to. I can go policy by policy with you. ICE, I agree that, because I'm sure this is a topic that you talk about a lot, which is immigration. I am pro border security. I want people to come to this country legally.
And that's a personal opinion because not the entire world is actually laughing at us.
However, I don't want people that have been in this country for decades, that pay taxes, that have families here, sent to an El Salvador prison. That's happened. Not everybody was nonviolent, but the
fallacy.
majority of those
That's
people,
false.
I think it was over 60% of the
sending
people
all
that they sent
those.
to an El Salvador prison were non-violent criminals. I don't want people murdered. When the body camera footage came out, they're good people.
They're
They're nice
he
people.
talks
They're
for about
family
like
people.
5 minutes.
On where are they going
And
to
Jay
go?
is a
Are
really
they going
good
to be able
sport.
to provide something?
He lets
first
him
closed,
just
and you
speak.
don't want
But you
any
can't tell me why
migrants
it's
coming
absurd.
here. Why?
Well,
Because
when I
we
asked
were
you for the other countries,
we
for
were
that uni-
founded. I'm
So?
telling you, we were founded by immigrants.
but
The
not
thing
with
I
open borders.
loved about this.
So you're going to go back
country-
to the founding. Does the founding allow for?
so
So, number one, we weren't founded by immigrants. Okay. So, immigration, while a lot of people confuse migration with immigration. Okay. Immigration is people coming into your country. That's immigration. Migration is going from one place to another. Okay. So, for instance, here in the U.S., you can migrate from Colorado to Washington. Okay. That's migration. When there's not a country established, okay, it's hard to say that we immigrated from England to an unclaimed land and we assimilated into that country. Okay? The Pilgrims didn't come over here and go, oh, now we're going to be savages and we're going to raise, colored corn and we're going to wear deerskin, shorts and wear feathers in our hats and go off and hunt the buffaloes. Integrate, right? No. They colonized. They didn't immigrate. They didn't integrate either. This is the problem that a lot of these leftists, and yes, Brian Shapiro, you are a fucking leftist, do.
For open borders?
I'm giving you my full explanation.
Sure.
We were my personal opinion is that
So it's relative.
it's the land of opportunity, and I believe that if you're vetted and
Only after we established our country. Before that, it's 100 years of, colonization.
you're not a criminal.
Mhm.
We should give everybody the opportunity to succeed in this country. You go through the process of becoming a legal citizen.
Mhm.
There are a ton of immigrants that have come to this country that have done so many great things for this
Yeah, but
nation.
that has
tons of immigrants that have done so many things.
Nothing to do with what I was arguing.
Well, I mean, you just want the borders to be completely
Sure.
closed.
Now, I skipped over this. So Jay's position is, and there's a lot of people who agree with him, he wants immigration paused. He wants it cut off completely. It's not a matter of he is against immigration. He's just saying in this country right now, there's been so much going on. We need to stop it, and we need to stop it for a period of time. And we did that several times in our history. He's not wrong. And leftists think is very, like, not in tune with exactly why this is.
Which I think is absurd.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Absurd.
But the countries that do that seem to do
I
well.
just
so-
disagree with you. I just think that, and again,
And this is the point where he's, Jay slightly said, there's lots of countries who disagree with you. Well, that's not what I think.
you might not like the comparison I'm making here, but I think it's important. You seem to have a concern, and you think it's bad for the country to have immigrants.
That's not what he said. Jay actually said he wants to pause immigration. Period. The end. He thinks mass immigration is bad. Okay. At no point in time did he say
Coming here.
No, infinity immigrants.
Yeah, well,
he's not afraid of immigration. He's afraid of infinite immigration, meaning everybody can come in all the time, anytime, and we're good with that. He's not. Okay. What he's saying is right now, at our level, it's good. We need to pause. Brian is like, that means that you're against immigration.
again, I think maybe there needs to be something put in place, but you've made the case that you don't want immigrants here at all. You want to
That's not what his case was. His case was, no, I want to pause it. I want to pause it all. I want to stop it all.
close the borders completely.
Yeah, it's
Right?
it's not needed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that you might think is not needed, but how does that affect you negatively? If immigrants are coming
I'm
into
not
this
arguing
country-
for what affects me personally. I'm just arguing. I'm
How is
thinking
it bad
the-
for
the
America?
country in general,
How?
and countries that have homogenous populations that keep to their traditions and their heritage seem to flourish and function better than those that are demographically changed. Hence why I was
And this is where education comes into play. Because Jay is very educated on this. He's very learned on this because he makes it a point for him to understand this. This is where Brian fails. Right here.
referring back to the older strategies of the War College and others that have written about how to do demographic replacement, which is a form of warfare.
You think immigrants, all undocumented immigrants that are in this country now, should all be deported?
Yes.
So people that have lived in this country for decades that have children here, how about anchor babies? Do you think they should be deported as well?
I would want the law to be changed on that. Yes.
So you think that if you're a 3 or a 4-year-old child that was born in this country, they should be deported?
Unfortunately, yeah.
You do. Okay. Well, I think that's extremely harsh, and I disagree with you. By the way, if you're seeking a
I mean, and we all have our opinions, right? So here's the thing about this is there's a line that we have to realize and the line we have to understand. Jay is on the end of complete and total cut it all off. Doesn't matter. You're here illegal. You're gone. Okay. Brian is on the opposite side of no, we should let all these people stay here because they've been here and it's due process and blah 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 and it's going to help the economy and blah 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 blah. There's a middle ground, and that middle ground has been forgotten for so damn long. And neither one of them really understand the nuances of immigration and the illegals that are here, because they do integrate with our society, but at the same time they cause a strain. So you got to balance that shit, right? You can't have one without the other. It's very nuanced, but at the same time there are too many of them here, and leaning left, they don't want to admit that.
asylum from a country, from Mexico, for example, and you're going about it the right way and you filled out the right paperwork.
And just FYI, there's no reason why a Mexican needs to be seeking asylum. Just FYI.
It is illegal for the Trump administration to deport you. Do you understand that they're doing that right now? It is against the law, and they're going against what our Constitution says. It's happening right now as we speak. You have ICE agents outside of courtrooms when they have filled out the proper paperwork.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're focusing on minutia of bad situations that happen to individuals and masses of tens of millions of people, when the overall net negative for the country is more important than the minutia. And one person is a.
And this is one of those things that Jay will point out on a couple times is the left will point to a singular situation and say, all of this is bad. This one example tells you it's bad. Problem is when you've got a million of those examples, that one doesn't equate all of them.
News story, but the statistics of millions of people get forgotten. So it's more important for the long-term benefit of the country in general than to highlight, as the left often does. I'm not saying you're a leftist, but they highlight specific cases to do emotional appeals. And so, like you've done in this debate, it's a lot of emotional appeals, which also helps.
I don't think it's emotional to say that the president is ripping up parts of our Constitution and breaking the law.
Those are
breaking the law is an emotion.
Those are emotional appeals.
Does it say that we all
This is when Brian just starts to show he's ignorant.
have, what does it say in our Constitution? Does it say every citizen has the right to due process? Or
Oh, now he's going to apply to this. Does the Constitution say every citizen or every person? This is one of those things where if you're a constitutional scholar, you can debate this. If you're a layman, you would be like, it says person. It says person. It doesn't say citizen. But at the same time, you got to put yourself in the shoes that these guys back then were not thinking, were not going, if somebody comes in from Spain and they have a kid, they're a citizen. They weren't thinking that.
or every person. What does it say?
Off the top of my head, I don't recall, but I would assume
kind of
it's
important.
I would assume it's citizens.
No, you're wrong. In our Constitution, it says any person has the right to due process. This is really fundamentally important.
But they also didn't have the idea of infinity open borders.
And this is where Jay points this out.
Okay.
At the time of the founding of the
Again,
country.
you use the term infinity, but you
And Brian ignores it.
said you don't want any immigrants coming into the country. So that's different than infinity.
My solution to infinity is the closing of the
And this is
borders.
when
Right,
Brian
you want the
was
borders
ignores
closed and you
completely
don't
his
want
argument.
any immigrants coming in. And the point that I was trying to make is if you care about our Constitution, which I hope you do, I do as well, it says in our Constitution, our forefathers, it says not any citizen has the right to due process. It says any person. And as much as
But
you
a person also can be a lawbreaker, and people that are here illegally are lawbreakers.
absolutely, but that doesn't mean they don't have the right to due process. That's what it says in our
Okay, but-
Constitution.
And then the due process thing is a completely different argument that Brian is ignorant on.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem trying to vet and do.
That's
process.
Supreme
But
Court
they're not
actually.
doing that, Jay.
Well, that's
Ruled on
sorry.
you
I mean, I didn't.
That
Defend,
doesn't bother you?
I didn't defend that specifically. You
But
just
that's-
now asked me about that.
Okay, but you're saying that any child that is born
No,
in
I
this,
said specifically highlighting certain emotionally charged cases is neglecting the bigger problem, and that's what the left tends to do in this topic: is highlight the emotional appeal topics about this child or that child, which is unfortunate, but it's not the big issue. The
I don't
big
think it's-
issue is.
I'm sorry,
Let's
go ahead.
play for a minute.
I'm saying in philosophy, an emotional appeal is where you
I gotta
cite a
run to the
specific
restroom, but I'll be right
example
back.
and you expand that to the totality, and say that on the basis of how you feel about this specific example, you should sway your opinion. So the reason it's a fallacy is it's not actually based on the logic of the situation. It's based on what you feel. Like war propaganda
Yeah.
does this, where they say, "Look at this child; he was killed in the war, therefore be against the war." Well,
I'm just talking about our Constitution and the law.
no, you
not-
weren't. You were
okay,
talking
so
about
I was-
specific
no, I was
emotionally
spe-
charged cases.
No, I was specifically
were.
talking about what it says in the
Well,
Constitution. and
first
I-
you talked about the emotionally charged cases,
Okay.
then you asked me about the
I'm
Constitution.
asking you about, and I was responding to the law, which states if you are from certain countries
Mhm.
like Mexico and
Mhm.
you're seeking asylum
Mhm.
and you come to this country and you fill out the proper paperwork
Mm-hmm.
and you're in the middle of that process
Mhm.
and you show up in front of a judge, it is illegal for the Trump administration
Mm-hmm.
to deport you. And the point that I was trying to make is this isn't a one-off or a couple cases. Thousands of people have been deported in the middle of the paperwork process
Mhm.
where in our own Constitution, it says they cannot deport you if you're seeking asylum from certain countries. it's against the law. That's not an emotional argument.
but
It's the
a few-
law that's
okay,
being broken.
Thousands of cases versus 10, 20, 30 million people that are here illegally in the last few decades. That again, that's highlighting something that's not the main issue. So it's more important to save the country than to be overly concerned
I don't
about
think these
a few
people
cases.
are ruining the country, and our country needs to be saved. In fact, per
Well,
capita.
I disagree.
Okay,
So,
well, do you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an undocumented immigrant or an American citizen?
depends on where you are.
Okay,
because
no,
if I
in
go
it-
to certain places where there
Okay,
are no,
there's going to be more
undocumented
crime in
migrants,
certain cities, but as a whole, and you could look this up, FBI statistics, you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American
Mhm.
citizen than you do an undocumented immigrant. I think that's very important to note because a lot of people think that brown people and undocumented immigrants coming into this country are going to rape your kids and they're going to kidnap your wife. It's just not the case. There are examples.
Mhm.
There are examples of undocumented immigrants that do horrible things. I want
Mhm.
those people deported. I don't want them here. But the overwhelming majority of these people that are coming into this country that are here already, many of them, that are undocumented, are not bad people with bad intentions. I want bad people
Mhm.
thrown
that
out
may
of this
be
country.
true, but it's still illegal.
So this is where where Brian actually leans toward the statistics and tries to tell somebody that, a few are able to, actually, make a difference. And Jay is like, yeah, but that's not the case overall. That's not exactly how it works.
Okay.
So it's against the law.
Yeah.
Still against the law.
So your opinion is if you break the law, there should be consequences. Is that a
Sure.
fair assessment?
Sure.
What are the consequences for Donald Trump, the man who you support?
And this isn't a pivot.
You're
this is
laughing,
where the
but it's,
pivot
Well,
is.
I mean, because you're trying to pay me as
Pivot.
if I'm some sort of like
Well, no,
I
do you
support
think-
every single policy. of
this
Donald
isn't
Trump.
about policy. This is about
No,
consequences.
well now
if
you're
you break
now
the
you're
law.
changing between when I told you I was an issues
Pivoting.
person, you say I'm a Trump apologist, which
Did-
you admitted earlier.
I did not
wasn't.
say you're a Trump
You
apologist.
said the man that you.
Yeah, but he keeps on wanting he's wanting Jay to apologize for Trump and defend Trump, but he's playing the game of, oh, well, I'm not saying that.
support. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, on specific issues.
Okay, but you
I'm an
voted for him.
issues person.
Okay, so
So you voted for him, therefore you need to support everything. No, that's not the way it works, guy. This is the problem. This is the problem is if I've got a choice where you agree with 7 out of 10 policies with one person, and the other person you only agree 2 out of 10, right? Who are you going to vote for? You're going to vote for the person that aligns with the majority of what you believe, right? 7 policies out of 10 or 2 out of 10 policies. Regardless of anything, if you're actually voting on just policies, which Jay actually said multiple times, and he tries to play him off with, well, you voted for him, so I mean, everything that Trump does is your fault because you voted for him, which is a fallacy. It's just fallacious.
let's talk about this.
And
Let's
I
forget,
already agreed that
let's
I
forget,
just.
let's forget
you
about the
just keep-
fact
but
that you
keep
voted
bringing
for
up
him.
the stuff that we've
Because
already
it's
settled.
hypocrisy. You want people held to the
Well-
highest. Hold on, I'll explain to
Okay.
you what I mean. And I'm not. I
And
don't
Brian
think you're a
doesn't
Trump
even know what
apologist. I don't think
hypocrisy
you are.
means.
Based on the 20 minutes I've known you, I don't think you are. But you want people to be held to account.
Mhm.
If it's somebody, by the way, it's a misdemeanor if you come into this country illegally. It's not even a felony. But you want people to held to the highest extent of the law. In this case, a misdemeanor. Okay, fine.
I believe for the
Okay.
maintenance and safety and health
Okay.
of the country, because
All
I think the country will collapse.
Do you agree with me? I disagree with that, but do you agree with me that we should have that same standard held to the highest people in power, including Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think nobody should be immune to or above the law. Sure.
Do you think that standard has held up when it comes to Donald Trump and the 34 count felonies that he was found guilty of,
Again, 34 count felony.
or the Jack Smith case, January 6th? Let me ask you another question since we're talking about the law. Do you think January 6th happens if Donald
And this is also when you can tell whether this guy is an actual radio host who's trained
and used to talking all the time, he occupies the entire conversation. And it's annoying.
Donald Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election.
Here are
Ah,
three
fucking
reasons why
ads.
you should
Damn
get
it.
a Gib order.
This is
First,
what happens
it's
when
a
you
really
snipe.
safe-
That's okay.
Would January 6th have happened?
Yeah, if Donald Trump didn't lie, which clearly it was a lie, I don't care what Alex Jones says. If Donald Trump didn't lie about the 2020 election because he didn't win,
It's clearly a lie. Not saying that it is. I'm just saying it's clearly a lie.
does January 6th happen?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
No.
All right, hypothetically speaking,
Well,
Jay,
you asked me a lot of questions.
No, hold on.
I want to
can I just touch on this real quick?
Sure,
'Cause
but I
this
want
is
to do some
important.
interrogation as
Uh,
well. Because
fair enough.
You've asked me a million questions.
You can
This
ask
is
me.
fine. Go ahead.
You can ask me anything you like, Jay.
Last question, Brian. Last
He's not
Well,
going to
to
answer,
this
but
issue,
Uh-huh.
you're telling me that if Donald Trump did what every other president did in American history, which was concede, which he didn't do, you think
Not every
January 6th
president
still
did.
hains and people are trying to overthrow a free and fair election? You can't answer that question?
not every
You don't
president
know.
No, it's just
conceded.
an argument from silence. I don't know what would have happened had this major event not occurred.
That's the
it's-
problem.
So if
it's
he
a weird
conceded
line
and
of
did what every
argument.
other president did,
Historically,
you still
not
think
every
January 6th
president
happens
conceded.
and they storm the Capitol and they're
I'm
saying,
saying I
hang
don't
Mike
know
Pence?
what would have
Recent
happened.
history, yes.
Maybe it's
Does
less,
it happen?
Maybe it's less likely.
Who won the 2020 election free and fair?
I believe there was manipulation, but I think most elections are manipulated.
Okay, but who won the election free and fair? Did Joe Biden win a free and fair election?
No.
Is there any evidence of widespread voter fraud that you can share with us today?
This is my opinion. I don't.
All right. I want you, I'm gonna replay that. I'm gonna replay that. Okay. I'm gonna play that again and listen to what he said.
If Donald Trump didn't lie about the 2020 election because he didn't win, does January 6th happen?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
No.
All right, hypothetically speaking,
Well,
Jay.
you asked me a lot of questions.
No, hold on.
I want to
Can I just touch on this real
Well,
quick?
Sure,
'Cause
but I
this
want to
is
do some
important. Listen
interrogation
to
as well. because
fair
you
enough.
asked me
His
many
answer.
questions.
You can
This
ask
is
me.
fine. Go ahead.
You can ask me anything you like.
Listen
Last
to
question, Brian. Last question.
Well, to this issue,
Uh-huh.
you're telling
Listen to
me
this.
that if Donald Trump did what every other president did in American history, which was concede, which he didn't do, you think January
Listen.
6th still happens and people are trying to overthrow a free and fair election? You
Listen.
can't answer that question? You don't know?
No, it's just an argument from silence. I don't know what would have happened had this major event not occurred. So
So if
it's
he
a weird
conceded
line
and
of
did what every
argument.
other president did, you still think January 6th happens and they storm the Capitol and they're
I'm saying I
hang
don't
Mike
know
Pence?
what would have happened.
Okay.
Maybe it's
Does
less,
it happen?
maybe
He's
it's less
admitting he
likely.
doesn't know.
Who won the 2020 election free and fair?
I believe there was manipulation, but I think most elections are manipulated.
Okay. Who won the election free and fair? Did Joe Biden win a free and fair election?
No.
Is there any evidence of widespread voter fraud that you can share with us today?
This is my opinion. I don't spend a
Boom.
lot.
This is the thing. Okay. At no point in time does Jay say no. At no point in time does Jay say yes. Jay said, in my opinion. Okay. This is very important later on because this is a thing that you have to understand when it comes to conversations and debate. Okay. You can state, in my opinion, A, B, C. But when you say, this is the way it is, this is fact, A, B, C, that is when you can actually attack. Those who understand philosophy and logic understand when to attack and when not to attack. When somebody says, this is my opinion, you can't argue with that. You can't. You can go, how did you come to that conclusion? Really? You came to that conclusion that way? But when somebody says something that's they think is factual, that's when you attack. And Jay made sure he said specifically, this is his opinion.
A lot of time focusing on voter fraud or voter election issues because I'm not really into day-to-day politics, but studying the history of the CIA, the way it works, I think that they can easily tap into their techniques for regime change and throwing elections.
Did Donald Trump win the
They've done that
2000
in dozens of
Did
countries.
Donald Trump win the 2024 election free and fair then, or would you hold that same standard and maybe Kamala won?
No, I think that Trump had overwhelming popular
Gotcha.
support.
So it's only free and fair if Donald Trump wins.
No, I
But
just
if,
gave you my opinion.
No. And this is where he reiterates.
opinion
Well,
on 2020.
based on what though? There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. He had
I
chances
gave
in a
you my
courtroom.
opinion on how the CIA
He
rigs
reiterates.
elections.
Let's
Okay,
let
but
That's all that I
Never
let's
been
let
proven
Jay
in a
ask.
court of law. But go ahead.
So a lot of what you've argued, you keep saying my opinion, my opinion, my opinion. I'm just curious, like where on what basis ought we go with your opinion?
On what? Which opinion?
Every topic tonight has come back to your specific.
Well, be
No, this is
specific
where
on
Jay
what
destroys him.
what topic.
In
and then I'll
general,
answer.
on what basis ought we to choose your opinion?
This is where Jay destroys
First
him.
of all, it's not an opinion
But you said
that the Trump
like 20
administration is breaking the law.
No.
I've already cleared.
This is the point. This is where somebody who is, again, I'm not saying Brian Shapiro is an idiot. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is where you learn the difference between somebody who actually thinks, who actually understands arguments and rhetoric, and somebody who just regurgitates bullshit. This is it. This is the moment that I was like, damn, this guy really is just a regurgitation machine. This right here.
Clearly
Why
stated
ought we?
that.
No, why ought we do this or that for the country? For example, you said that we ought to have certain types of immigration that's legal, and this and that. And I'm saying you said this was my opinion, my opinion, my opinion. I'm saying why ought we do that? Because you didn't
Mhm.
apply those things to other places like Japan. So why ought we only go with your assessment?
Well,
of what's
first of all, the United
what's
States
good
of
for
America is not Japan.
Yeah. Again, I'm gonna take your hypothetical and I'm just gonna ignore it because we're not them.
Number two,
So
Uh,
why ought we
I
choose
care
that
about-
for here?
well, because I care about the country that I live
So
in,
the
and I'm more
ethics-
concerned about the
so
United
are
States, the
okay.
country that I live
Are
in.
the ethics relative or are they universal? Is the question.
As I've said, I wish that every government across the world shared the belief of
And
we are
this is
going
where
to vet
Brian
you
falls.
So we
properly.
ought to follow your ethics because you wish it was the case.
No, I just don't care what the color of your skin is or where you're from. If you're a decent person, I welcome
Totally
you in my
has no
country. I
relevance
think
to
that's
the
a pretty fair,
conversation.
Why
logical
ought we
opinion.
follow your position? Because it's logical.
Why ought we follow not being a racist? Because that's kind of what I'm
Well,
following.
why is that
here.
wrong?
So today's the day. I've got
Man,
my
are you-
RTA mock
another
system
ad.
and Coyote appliances.
Ah,
I think if you don't want anybody from any other country, which is what you have said,
Right.
you want our borders
Right.
completely
No,
shut down.
no.
I believe that is un-American.
okay. See, this right here is what they do. At no point in time did Jay ever say, I don't want any other person from any other country. He said specifically, I want it done. I want it be done. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when. No more immigration. That's what Jay said. This fucker wants to flip it around and say, oh, well, you just don't want immigration from these people.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
The
so
beauty
what?
of this country
Well, so
is that we have the freedom and others have the freedom to make something of themselves
So is
wherever
that-
they come
should
from.
that
And I
be-
think that's a beautiful thing about the United States.
Okay.
I can't speak for Japan.
why ought we follow that though? Because you like it. You think it's beautiful.
Why?
Yeah.
This country was founded on that. Our freedoms.
I mean, many
And the-
countries,
and-
many countries are founded on
Yeah.
Why? Because.
all kinds
Yeah.
of things that are stupid. So
Well,
why
your,
not?
Because-
your reasoning
because.
is the country is going to go down the crapper if we. If,
That's a
if,
two quote.
because-
I mean,
because.
What
that's,
about?
that's your reasoning behind it. And I
Okay,
Because-
so fine. My
because.
reasoning's dumb, but I want to know why we have to
I
follow
didn't say
your
it was
reason.
dumb.
I'm just saying I'm
Because-
misleading.
because.
Okay, why ought we follow yours?
Because we have been following it for decades, and I think we're the best country in the world for a very, very long
That's
time.
a circular
Because-
argument.
because-
We ought to
It's a
follow
circular
it because we've been following.
We
Why
ought to follow
ought?
it because I do believe
So
as
there's
a
a-
whole, immigrants have a lot of benefits to the United States.
Because-
of America.
But
because-
you're not telling me why we ought to follow that.
Well, produce, jobs that immigrants take that most Americans are not willing to take,
Because.
working for wages that and Americans, they help the economy. There's no question that it
Well,
helps the
But
economy.
why are those things?
Because-
in other words, you're assuming that
because.
they're this good that you have access to. That's
Sure.
the basis for
Different
okay,
cultures,
what's
I
the
think,
good?
is good. I think learning different cultures,
Mhm.
and I think what's made America great is being for lack of a better term, a mix of different colors in the crayon box and being diverse. I think diversity is a
America became great because we had multiple colors in the crayon box and it was diverse. how in the hell? This is what I'm talking about, modern speak. America did not come great because of many different cultures and many different ways of thinking. There was, up until the 1960s, was so poignant on a few things, okay? Were there disagreements on the minutiae? Yeah, there was. And we fought a frickin' civil war on one major thing, right? But you cannot tell me that, it's a constant flux. You cannot tell me that, because it hasn't been.
It's a good thing. And I don't, I
Right, so
certainly,
there's a standard of the good, which originally was what you said was your opinion, and you think that it works and this and
Do
that. So,
brown
but what's
people-
the standard?
do brown people scare you?
So now you're asking questions.
And, right. I mean, look, do brown people scare you? Jay never made the argument as far as race goes. Jay never made the argument as far as color of skin goes. But this racist, and Brian is a racist, throws out the racist question.
When I
Well, yeah,
asked
because
to
I don't
interrogate
understand
you.
your logic to this.
So
You've
you're-
said
you're
America's
def-
going to
you're
go down.
doesn't
You're
understand
deflecting
logic.
away from the fact that your positions
I'm
are
not
subjective.
I'm not deflecting.
Are they
against
relative?
anything.
Are they subjective opinions?
Not based on crime and statistics and the benefits
No.
that the economy has
The
towards
morals, the
towards.
ethics, are they subjective?
Yeah, but I was talking about the
My
economy and
question
numbers.
is the ethics, not the numbers.
What about the ethics?
Is your ethics subjective and relative, or is it objective?
Yeah, I think there are people out there that could disagree with me that
Excuse me.
are maybe don't like brown people. I think there are people out there that have different opinions that think that brown people are
No, no, I'm not
terrible
asking,
to the
do
country.
people have
Yeah,
those opinions?
I guess you could make
so
the
I
case.
guess you're not interested.
I guess you can make the case it's subjective. I guess you can make that case.
Okay.
I mean, some people could say the Klan isn't racist. I guess that's subjective too. You could make the
That's
case.
not what.
Now, this is where you understand, this is where you see where Brian does not understand the argument. He doesn't understand it.
What subjective
You could
means,
make the
but
case. I know what subjective means.
What is
What does subjective mean? What does subjective mean? Jay asks him twice. And this is the second time he ignores the question of what does it mean.
does it mean?
I know what it means.
What does
I
it mean?
understand what it means.
What-
He understands. He knows. But at the same time, that's not what I'm talking about.
Does it
And
mean?
this is Sean.
I'm
this
not
is-
sure that you do. So in terms of relativism
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and
Okay.
And this is where I think the first time in this thing where he actually throws out the whole, no, we're playing word games.
epistemology and ethics.
So
What is
this
that?
is-
What do you think that
This
means?
is okay. I'll answer your question, but this is the Andrew Wilson approach.
Andrew Wilson word game.
Well, I've been doing this debate for 25 years.
I know,
so,
and you can be doing it for 100 years. It doesn't mean anything to me. It means dick. Okay, so let's continue
so
the conversation.
we don't have to have a basis for
No,
ethics.
no. This is a word game that you're.
A word game. This is his cope. And he does this throughout the entire rest of the conversation. Oh, wait a minute. You're challenging me on my stance, and therefore it's a word game. And this is where you have somebody who understands logic and philosophy, and somebody who plays the game. Okay. He was asked specifically, not once, not twice, but 3 times to define a term, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that. But before that, I'm going to do this." And then he tries to play the whole, I'm going to move the goalposts, and I'm going to say, "Oh, well, you're just playing a word game. You're just playing a word game." This guy is this is the thing that frustrates me, okay? Because you know, in some instances, you can say that these people are just playing a game of chess. Okay. And Jay actually alludes to this earlier when he starts calling him fallacious and, stuff like that, is if you're playing a game of chess and you keep moving a piece incorrectly, it is your job to point out to them you cannot move a pawn diagonally. Okay? There is only one specific way you can move that, but you can't move a bishop horizontally or vertically. Bishops go diagonally, right? And you cannot move a rook diagonally. You can only move them horizontal or vertical, right? These guys do not understand the concept. They do not understand that concept.
You're trying to play with me.
So
I've
all
done this
philosophy,
with Andrew
all
Wilson.
philosophy and ethics
Okay.
is word games.
And when you start trying to say, oh, you're just playing word games. You're just playing word games. No, man. No. Logic is logic. If you don't understand logic, that's okay. That's okay. I don't understand philosophy. Okay. I am not a philosopher. I am not going to walk into a classroom. I'm not going to walk into somebody who studied philosophy for 25 years and tell you you're wrong. Not going to do it. I am not that freaking ignorant to be able to walk into somebody and go, you don't know what you're talking about philosophy. You don't. Now, if you want to walk into my arena of what I am knowledgeable in, you better be prepared. You better be prepared, because I am knowledgeable in this small little thing. All right? But I'm not going to walk into your area and go, you don't know what you're talking about. And this is the thing that this is what struck me. And I'm almost done with tonight, because this is actually really raising my blood pressure. Not really, because I don't have high blood pressure. But if you watch the rest of this debate and you actually listen to what is being said, this is the point, is if you do not understand philosophy and the tenets of debate with logic, don't go into that arena. And the funny thing about it is, and this Brian Shapiro, this is the hilarious thing about this. This guy actually thinks he's smart. He actually thinks he's smart because he has a radio show. He has been proven time and time again he's fucking ignorant. But the fact that Jay actually entertained this, and he was a good sport. Jay Dyer was a great sport with this whole conversation, okay? He laughed, he joked, but at the same time, at the end of it, he was like, are you this stupid? And this guy is stupid.
You can say all racism is word games too. The point that I'm
I'm
trying
asking
to
for the good, and you're saying it's a word game.
Okay,
So your
so
position is based on word
I've
games?
told you, you're not listening. First of
I love it when he says, oh, but you're not listening.
all, it's a benefit to the economy.
Well,
I
why
can-
is
I
that a
can
good?
show
That's
you
begging the question. What's the good?
why is it a benefit that people
No,
help
yeah.
our economy?
You have a reference to the good in all of these assertions, and I'm asking you, what is this good? because you just keep saying, then you said, admitted that it's subjective and it's relative. Well, in that case, then there's no reason to prefer to proffer that on anyone else.
Well, I would ask you the same question. Why is it bad
Well,
for
I
the
don't
country?
believe in subjective ethics.
Okay. Well, why is it bad for the country? Why are immigrants bad for the United States of America?
Well,
Why do you want to
again,
close the
I already
borders?
argued that because a massive influx of other people that are not indigenous to this population replaces its demographic.
Don't we have a
warfare.
First Amendment right
It's
to believe?
And okay, this is what's the funny part. This is the hilarious part about this whole thing. We're gonna go. Let's see where we're at. We're at 105.22. We're gonna rewind it maybe 10 seconds. Okay, we're gonna rewind 22 seconds. And I want you to listen to this. Are you ready?
In that case, then there's no reason to prefer to proffer that on anyone else.
Well, I would ask you the same question. Why is it bad
Well,
for
I
the
don't
country?
believe in subjective ethics.
Okay. Well, why is it bad for the country? Why?
I don't prescribe to subjective ethics. So why is it bad for the country?
Are immigrants bad for the United States of America?
Well,
Why do you want to
again,
close the
I already
borders?
argued that because
And again, completely ignored it. Completely ignored it. I really suggest, if you can, take the time to actually listen to this debate. Pull yourself away from whatever ideology that you have and actually tune into what is being said. Because again, I'm not a philosophy scholar. You know, I didn't graduate college, barely graduated high school, okay? Read, several different things, listened to several different things. I'm a layman. I am a normal guy. I get up in the morning, I go to work, come home, rinse and repeat, okay? These guys are educated people. These guys are people who's gone to college and did all this stuff and listened to all this stuff like that. Why is it, if you actually listen to this, and I would really love for somebody to actually, I would love for somebody to actually tell me what Brian is actually, what his argument is. In a logical term, in a logical way. I've watched this twice now. And I've watched many debates like this. And at no point in time can anybody cross that logic plane. At no point in time can they actually cross the logic plane. And again, I'm a common guy. I'm the average guy. I'm not your, oh my God, political figure. Again, didn't graduate college, barely graduated high school, worked my ass off in several different fields and stuff like that. Why is it that I can understand the philosophy and logic of Jay Dyer compared to the ad hominem fallacious argumentation of Brian Shapiro? Explain that to me. I don't get it. And I don't understand why they think that they can actually. And the funny thing about it is, at the end of this debate, if you actually watch this whole debate, Brian Shapiro actually says he's not trying to change viewpoints. I'm going to tell you right now, if there's anything I can say to you tonight, it's think the way I think. That's the point. The point is me trying to persuade you to think the way I think. Because the way I think, in my opinion, is better than the opposition. I wouldn't be on here. I would not be on here if I didn't want to influence you, if I did not want to change your mind, right? And you would think that a radio talk show host in the political forum is not trying to change your point of view. He's a fucking liar, because that's exactly what he's doing. But here in this debate, he says, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to change I'm just trying to voice my opinions. First of all, if you've ever been in a conversation with somebody, okay, and this is not something about, okay, no, I'm actually gonna use this. I'm gonna use this analogy, okay? Star Wars. You got 9 movies, right? If you're anybody in my age, you're damn well going to be able to say the first 3, the original 3, were better than the prequels and the sequels. Now, you can argue that the special effects was better, or that the script was better and stuff like that. But at no point in time are you going to be able to convince me that waiting in line in 1977 for Star Wars, the first New Hope movie, is better than waiting in line for the reimagined shit that came out from Disney. You're not. This is the same shit. It's the same shit, right? I'm trying to convince you that the first original movies of Star Wars is better than anything else. And I guarantee you, somebody who's out here is like, fucking Star Wars sucks. Star Trek's the bitch. And then we're going to have a conversation, right? Anything that you ever say to somebody when it comes to any opinion that you have, you're trying to convince somebody. And that's exactly what this is. And then you have some douchebag like this who's like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, no. I'm not trying to tell you what you think. I'm not trying to tell you. I'm just giving my opinion. That's just my opinion. And I guarantee you this. If you're of my age or a little bit younger, everybody fucking knows there's just as many opinions as there are assholes on this planet. So, with that, like I said earlier, I have to go to work in the morning. So, we're going to say good night, God bless, and I hope you all have a blessed